Greetings from sunny Tampa, Florida. I could spend the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour talking about the major changes going on in the world of business today, but instead I'll just summarize it from the book The World is Flat. Globalization is the greatest reorganization of the world since the Industrial Revolution. With 3 billion new capitalists from China, India, and the former Soviet Union, your company, you, and even your kids must be prepared for extreme competition. It's all about mashups in business. We've seen mashups because of the interconnection of businesses across the world in just the last few weeks and what can happen. On the technology front, we've also seen what web services can do in terms of a mashup without SOA. So it turns out that business without business process management and technology without SOA can lead to mashups that we really don't want to know about. In fact, the whole world of business today is centered on the holy grail of agility. How can you change based on the realities of what's going on in the marketplace? The holy grail of agility is what's driving both BPM and SOA. So it's BPM and SOA to the rescue, right? Well, let's stop and think. What exactly is BPM? To some, it's workflow plus EAI plus a little lipstick. To others, it's strictly a management philosophy. Oh no, it's just process automation. It's my ERP system. Well, the term is so hyped that BPM today can mean whatever you want it to mean. Well, what about something more concrete, this term called SOA? Oh, it's just stateless OO on the web. No, it's just web service. Oh, it's fixing and refactoring IT. It's what we already do. But according to Ann Thomas Maines, it's a major effort that will take 10 to 15 years before the full benefits and the full promise will come about. I cannot recall any one term causing as much confusion as service-oriented, according to Thomas Earl. Well, no doubt SOA is hot. In fact, it's so hot that many think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Others would go so far as to say it's the end of IT history. Well, I've been around for a long time. I'm a grandpa. I actually met the man who invented the electronic digital computer. In an interview in 1981, I met Dr. John Vincent Adanasoff. So I've been around for a while to realize that the end of IT history is not any time soon. Beginning with assembler language, where I wrote my first computer programs in the 60s, to then upping the level of abstraction to COBOL, then structured analysis and design, then OO, then components, then object-oriented business engineering, then agent-oriented business engineering, UML, the business object component architecture, the World Wide Web, Web 2.0, BPM 2.0, Enterprise 2.0, SOA, and some are even talking now of WOA. So it's not the beginning of the end, it's only the end of the beginning. We've gone from OO and tightly coupled systems, which was a major breakthrough in terms of how systems were developed so that we could model businesses and business entities and business objects in a way that would relate to what's going on in the real world in terms of software. Today we're at the level of SOA, service-oriented architecture, where everything now, instead of tightly coupled in the OO world, is becoming more loosely coupled. And a whole number of architectural entities are being addressed that allow us to scale up and use business services across the entire internet. But that's not going to be the end. We might look to the future and see agent-oriented architectures, where everything is completely decoupled, where agents themselves contain their own knowledge sources, their own methods and their own data, and they simply communicate with one another with few dependencies, no coupling whatsoever. The same futures are possible in terms of BPM itself. In the old days, we talked about workflow as basically process management. Today, we're talking about choreography and orchestration across many business processes to create end-to-end business processes. But in the future, since it's not processes that do work, it's people, we're finally going to take on that major component, that missing link in business process management, which is called human interaction management, as described in the book, Human Interactions. So business turned to technology. They get all confused. They keep hearing about these silver bullets. EDA, Enterprise 2.0, SOA, BPM, Management 2.0, WOA, Web 2.0, the cloud. It's very confusing. But what your business people, what your management, what your CEO wants from technology is for you to connect the dots and to deliver a brand new three-letter acronym, ROI 3.0. They could care less about all the magic of all these 2.0s, and they want to move on to ROI as the ultimate three-letter acronym. So today we can look at BPM and SOA as the building blocks for a new enterprise, a 21st century enterprise. And I like the way that Ismail Galimi, co-founder of BPMI.org, stated it. BPM is SOA's killer application, and SOA is BPM's enabling infrastructure. That concept is confirmed by the recent research report from Gartner. SOA and BPM are better together. So I got to tell you, I'm kind of an impatient person. As I said, I've been around for a long time. Wrote my first computer program in the 60s. In the 70s, I went out and as a college professor with no money, took out a loan and bought an Apple II with a graphics tablet because I wanted a Macintosh. I was so impatient it wasn't there. In 2002, when Howard Smith and I wrote Business Process Management, the underlying theme behind that book and the concept was not to bridge the business IT divide, but to obliterate it. But over the years since then, since 2002, I've seen that BPM has basically become a back-office tactical tool. It has not delivered the end-to-end capabilities that are needed to transform how a company actually works, to transform how their value chains can compete against other companies' value chains in the same industry. So I've written the article in BP Trends this past month, BPM is dead. Why do I say that? That's the old BPM as practiced so far. The new PPM will be a convergence of Web 2.0 to bring the simplification to enterprise IT that we now find in consumer IT. It will be based on service-oriented architecture so that we can reach across various entities within departments and across the enterprise and finally across the value chain to start bringing about abstract data types that could communicate and interoperate easily with one another and help us achieve that holy grail of reuse. And we'll end up then with BPM as a service, not as some back office technology, but BPM as a service that can cross the entire value chain. It will become a business operations platform operating in the cloud that reaches across entire value delivery systems to bring new competitive advantages to companies that adopt it. So what have been the pitfalls of both BPM and SOA? It's been the bottom-up problem. When you use either BPM or SOA bottom-up, you don't get reuse. You just get more of the same. On the other hand, to really achieve reuse, you've got to take a top view. You've got to look at the overall enterprise architecture. You've got to look at the business architecture. Instead of the hundreds of little processes that run within departments, you've got to look at those processes that span the entire enterprise. What Andrew Spaney in his book, BPM as a Team Sport, calls enterprise business processes. Because it's there within the 10 or 15 major enterprise-wide processes that we're able to model and deduce the business capabilities that a company has. So that instead of running around building up small solutions one at a time, every time we take on a new project, either SOA or BPM, or hopefully the two together, what we end up doing is raising our view, looking up, and looking at the overall enterprise capabilities in order to build reusable components and entities that can scale up across the enterprise and across the entire value chain. So one of the keys in any kind of service-oriented modeling or BPM modeling is to take a look up and to begin with an overarching business architecture that can help us identify the core components that can be reused across many processes and across many applications. So indeed, we're not at the beginning of the end of the future of software. We're at the end of the beginning. Because the future is not some manifest destination. It's our own creation, and often through our own creative destruction, often through our own refactoring of our software, of building the new world while we maintain the old world. The paths to it are not discovered. They're forged, and the process changes both the path maker and the destination. But the good news now is with both BPM and SOA together, innovative business strategies can be embraced incrementally with technology enablement, one breakout strategy at a time, instead of the usual big bang, rip and replace disruptions so typical of earlier systems such as ERP. So roll up your shirt sleeves and work hard to get your company ready for extreme competition. There's a lot to learn, and many cultural barriers, both within the business organization and within the IT organization, to overcome. But today is a great day to start your journey into becoming an extreme competitor. And I wish you great success in your journey ahead.